Molson Coors is obviously a beverage company. We have about 17,000 employees, over 42 breweries in different jurisdictions around the world. Middle of the pandemic, a lot of remote workers. We're still relying on traditional VPN. From my perspective as a security professional, I'm looking at it from an attacker perspective. That same user may have downloaded some malware, they've infected their PC. From that infected PC with a VPN, they can connect to pretty much anything. That creates that flat network environment and a wide attack surface for us. We did have a fairly significant breach last year in 2021. We didn't have that protection from the endpoint. We needed connectivity from anybody, anywhere. And while VPN can do that technically in certain ways, but it doesn't do so in a secure way. The last 2 years has been a great transformation with our CIO to get rid of a lot of that legacy equipment. It's great for me as the CISO to get rid of some of the vulnerabilities you have with legacy stuff, getting ourselves prepared for a modern zero trust future without a bunch of heavy weight to have to carry with us. We use currently Zscaler Internet Access for is we engage with many other businesses. As we've created other companies or we make ventures into other companies, look at our joint venture with a new company to help distribute Yingling across the world using our supply chain. We're providing services. Well, we have to do so in a secure way, keeping them separate from Molson Coors. Zscaler has actually helped us do that through Zscaler Internet Access to help us protect a separate cohort of users while still not really changing how our security team understands tools to work. All 17,000 employees are currently using ZDX. When our average consumer, average user has an application issue and they call the service desk and it's a connectivity issue. So I look at ZDX as first as let's know where the problem is. Right, so it's not Zscaler, it's your ISP, it's you're too close to the pool, it's the whatever the reason is, or maybe it's an application issue. And being able to decipher that very quickly, I think is a good experience for the user. So mean time to resolution obviously changes. It's averaged out between different incidents, but we were in a case of hours, like 8 hours in some cases to actually understand what was going on and respond to that incident. We're down now to about 15 minutes. So for us, that was a huge reduction. So that's when we got all 17,000 employees onto the ZDX advanced capability for us to put a couple of monitors out there to see where these issues were. And we could figure out there was some file server slowness and how we had architected our internal network and how it was connecting with Zscaler. I was really happy to see how they approached our challenge, solved our challenge, and still have the case for future business. So it creates a relationship, and I really appreciate that. So we have quite a bit reduced incidents. We do have a better mean time to resolution than what we had prior the year before. It plays an important part in being able to track down what asset it was, where the issue was, what they connected to, allows us to say, from an incident perspective, whether we should be really concerned or not, right? Because whether the traffic went out, we have to just reset a password, or we have to reset a PC. So from that perspective, I think we actually have reduced, I'd have to double check on some numbers, but we have reduced the number of PC full wipes that we'd have to do to quite a bit of, very, very few of those to deal with that. It just works, right? They plug in, it works. When the inevitable bad thing happens and that endpoint gets compromised, my entire environment is no longer exposed. They can attack some applications, but they have to be very noisy in doing so. They can't just scan my network or go pivot to some other computer. So that attack surface reduction from the usual asset that gets compromised, the average user, that's kind of really, really reduced and gives us the opportunity to quarantine and respond to the incident when it's only one PC and not an entire network. Previous solution couldn't really address a zero trust architecture because it wasn't really doing any of the zero trust things, right? It was just assuming that once you had authentication that you could just get access to everything. So it was implicitly trusting, which is literally against what zero trust means, right? We want to make sure we can inspect why and what you're doing. Say how many threats were blocked from Zscaler alone. It's always in the hundreds of thousands or millions depending on the day. It's simple, easy to use. You can train on it right away. There's no limitations for bringing that onto the rest of the world and where you're going from a cloud with workload to workload segmentation and the OT networks and some of those other capabilities. When it comes to protecting an end user and giving them secure access to the internet, ZIA and ZPA, along with that ZDX component, is it's a game changer.